Let's begin with our 2-minute opening statement from the candidates.
I'd first like to express my appreciation for all the folks who helped to put on this forum, and I'm very appreciative to be here. My name is Paul Huber, and I'm running for Congress because Kathy Dahlkemper, Nancy Pelosi, and the liberals in Congress are taking this country in the wrong direction. I can be part of the solutions, can turn this country around, and put it on a sound footing. This Congress has done nothing but pass one irresponsible piece of legislation after another. It's been more spending, higher taxes, more debt, and a more intrusive government. There's a better way forward, and I can help take us there. I was born and raised on a farm, and I learned very early the values of honesty and hard work. I've spent a lifetime in business, creating jobs, setting and managing budgets in good times and bad, and cutting payroll, multi-million-dollar payroll. I have a plan to put America back to work, and that plan starts with reforming the tax code so that American families, farms, and businesses can keep more of their hard-earned currency because they know how to spend it much more wisely than does the government. We need to have a level playing field so businesses can compete in the global marketplace and work against countries that are manipulating their currency to provide unfair trading practices. We need to remove burdensome regulation, which is crippling American business, and we need tort reform because that's one of the greatest costs that businesses have in this country. We need a national comprehensive energy plan that's going to lead us to energy independence. And we need to repeal the health care bill that was just passed and pass sensible health care reform. We also need to do things that will restore Americans' confidence in our economy. And that includes balancing the budget, freezing spending at 2009 levels, repealing the TARP bill and the stimulus bill, and putting the money that's left over back into the Treasury to reduce the national debt. That will send a kind of signal to the American people and the world that we're serious about correcting these problems.
But this is a question not as much about policy, but about what it would like to be in Congress. And if you're elected to Congress, you'll be only one of 435 members. And since every act passed needs a majority, members of Congress must choose when and on what basis they will compromise and accept something that is not their first preference. For example, you might prefer to eliminate the inheritance tax, but there appears to be only broad support for lowering the rate. In that instance, do you insist on repeal and not vote for lowering? Or would you vote for the lowering of that tax? So here's the question. When, if at any time, would compromises be acceptable? And when would you not compromise? So can you offer, this is a long question, but can you offer a general principle which would guide you? Or maybe provide an example?
I think one can always change their priorities, but one should never change their principles. And for me, the principles for a legislator is to stand on the Constitution. I believe strongly that if you, as a legislator, put your country first, your constituents second, and your family third, you will always make the right decision. I think there's many people in Congress that go there with well-intentions, but when they get down there, they lose their way. And once they lose their way, they're more concerned about getting reelected than they are anything else. I have a strong moral compass and a sense of right and wrong. When I go to Washington, D.C. next January, I'm going to use that moral compass and the sense of right and wrong to make the tough decisions and stand up for the voters in this district.
It focuses on government programs. The United States government has not had a federal surplus since 2001. Since that time, it has accumulated deficits over 9 years totaling more than $5 trillion. As a candidate, name one government program that you would fight to eliminate and one government program that needs to be reduced in your first year or first term as a congressman.
I don't think there's any one program that you can pick. I think there's a series of programs. Many of the programs that we have in Congress today should all be evaluated. They should all be evaluated with a commission like the Brownback Commission, where they will look at the policies and the procedures that are put in place and determine whether we are getting our money for every single one of them. There are many of them that need to be reduced, and they're too numerous to mention, but welfare is one, certainly. I believe strongly that agricultural subsidies are one thing that need to be looked at. I believe there are many other issues that are going to have to be addressed, and I think that the Medicaid program is one, welfare is certainly another one.
Mr. Huber, we've all heard that you started out as a Democrat and now you sound like a Reagan Republican. So is that really a change, or do we need to worry that when you get there you're going to turn back toward being a Democrat again? And I also would like to know from you what you think of term limits, and whether you will term limit yourself. I personally am going to only do 6 years at the most. Of course, you serve at the will of the people, but I'm going to come back and practice medicine in Sandy Lake, and I'm not making a career of this Congress. So, those questions.
Well, in all reality, I should have changed my party affiliation many years ago. My wife of nearly 30 years, about every morning, told me that. I finally took her advice. And, I thought for many, many years that labels belong on jars. They don't belong on people. What people need to be challenged with is what they stand for and the principles. And my mother had a saying, which I'll paraphrase it for you, but I think it's very appropriate for that comment. She said, let me see your checkbook, and I'll tell you what you believe in. Well, if you could look at my checkbook, I could tell you that Francie and I would show you that we have been supporting conservative causes and conservative candidates for many, many years, strongly on the financial side as well. And without a doubt, I think the principles that I stand for start with the Constitution. And there's no way that I will ever compromise those kinds of principles. And I also think with regard to term limits, I believe in term limits. Many people will say that we have term limits simply by having our election process. But I intend to serve no more than 3 terms. This is exactly what our founding fathers intended us to do. And as a matter of fact, I feel strongly that Mr. Ben Franklin, that is, had it right. He said you shouldn't pay legislators, because if you don't, they won't stick around.